More than 6 million eligible voters are expected to cast ballots in the ongoing presidential and parliamentary elections in Zimbabwe. The elections marks a pivotal moment in the country's political landscape, only the second election since the ouster of longtime President Robert Mugabe. Against the backdrop of soaring inflation and economic challenges, millions of registered voters are making their way to the polls to shape the future leadership of the nation. President Emerson Mnangagwa, who succeeded the late Robert Mugabe, faces an array of contenders, including Nelson Chamisa of the main opposition party Citizens Coalition for Change. Touted as a rematch between these front-runners, the outcome holds significant implications for Zimbabwe's political direction, economic prospects, and global relationships. So on the square today, we continue our coverage of Zimbabwe's 2023 elections, where we will explore the dynamics, key players, economic dimensions, and the broader implications for the country's future. I am Kemini Amano, and you're welcome. Joining our gathering today from Zimbabwe are Wilbert Madinde. He is Programs Coordinator for Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum. He is in Harare. We also have in Harare Tafajwa Mavunga, who is the Project Vote 263 Assistant Programs Manager. Thank you so much for your time here, gentlemen. I want to absolutely. I want to start with you, Tafajwa. You've been on the ground. You've seen how things are going. Talk to us about where you have been and what you have observed so far.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. My name is Tafadzwa Mavunga. I'm from Zimbabwe, and I've been at a number of polling stations in and around Harare province, particularly in Chitungwiza, St. Mary's constituency to be particular. Voting has been peaceful, but we have seen some challenges with the disbursement of the ballot papers, with some polling stations starting to vote at 11. And as I'm speaking to you right now, some constituencies in Harare province are yet to receive the ballot papers, especially for the local authority. And this has been a cause for concern because some voters are actually going back home without voting because voting hasn't started. It was supposed to start at 7 a.m. local time in Zimbabwe, but up to now, it's 12 minutes past 3 p.m. and voting is yet to start in some areas in our province. So this has been the situation, but the citizens have been peaceful and the election has been going ahead, especially in the countryside of Zimbabwe, where voters are actually voting in their numbers. And I've received numbers saying that more than 80% of those who are registered in some polling stations have actually turned up and voted, despite the fact that voting is yet to reach the end time, which is 7 p.m.
Well, Tafazwa, let's put the challenges into perspective. Which polling stations did you go to that had not started even as at midday?
I've been at Forward Business Center in St. Mary's constituents. I've been at Zengeza Main, that's St. Mary's constituents again, and I've heard reports from some of our observers who are in Court Comfort, that's in Harare, and others who are also in Kwadzana. Complaining about the same thing. Those at Chembira Primary School in Glenora are also complaining about the same challenges. And those in Glenview 3 are also complaining about those things at 2:30 p.m. local time, saying that the voting process hasn't started, citing the same challenge of local authority ballots being not distributed on time. And the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission has also issued a statement saying that these delays were caused by some court challenges that were ongoing leading up to the final day, which is today. So they were not ready in terms of distributing all the voting material on time due to these court cases.
Indeed, I will come back to you. We'll talk more about your observations, but let's move on to Wilbert now. Wilbert, you're also in Harare. And just as Tafazwa has said, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission has corroborated what he's saying with your statement. As at morning, West African time, 23% polling stations in Harare had not started at 7 a.m. Your time. And so talk to me about your experience. Have you gone out to vote? Have you tried to vote? And what did you observe?
Thank you. So I went out to vote at my polling station. Everything seemed to have gone on well, but I am an accredited observer, as you can see from the card that I'm holding. So I've also equally gone around to a number of polling stations, and in particular in a constituency called Harare West. And at Harare West, I spent a while at a polling station called Sanganai, where an hour ago the ballot papers were yet to arrive at Sanganai. Amongst the team from the Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum are people who are also in the Kambuzuma constituency, which my colleague Tafazwa have also mentioned there, who are yet to start voting because of the delays. And unfortunately, we also understand that in Warren Park 1, one elderly person collapsed and was later pronounced dead before even voting started. And as of now, we are not sure voting has actually started because the third ballot paper, that is for the local authority, is the one which is said not to be there. We are also following up with our other monitors, and we understand even in Mutare, Dangamfura, people haven't also started voting at about 15 minutes ago. So it's certainly worrying because in terms of our time, the polling station opens for 12 hours. And if they opened at 7 a.m. our time, we are now around just after 8 hours with 4 hours to go. But we are worried because the ballot papers have not been delivered within the remaining 4 hours. The law says that it can extend for another, a polling station can run for 12 hours. But the point is, who will go and vote at 3 a.m.? We are certainly worried about that.
We're hoping that people will still be in the line. And like you said, ZEC had said and released, as part of his statement, said the full 12 hours will happen in polling centers where opening of the polls delayed. But I do want to ask you about network issues. We have had reports that even at places where polls were opened on time, a network issue significantly slowed down the process. What kind of impact do you think, Wilbert, that will have on the entire process? Because ZEC did not make any provisions or extensions for that.
The issue is we're not sure what's affecting them in terms of network, but some of the logistical issues that we noted are number one are the fact that there have been errors on some of the ballot papers. We understand in some constituencies in Marondera, the ballot papers for the local authority did not have other candidates who were confirmed. In Bikita, we saw a ballot paper where the signals of the political parties were transposed with the ZANU-PF signal put on the CCC candidate, and the CCC symbol put on the ZANU-PF candidate. And then obviously the issue that we have raised where some ballot papers have actually not been delivered. The issue is today was declared a public holiday to enable people to vote. But the worrying issue is if people have been patient this long, we don't know for how long or whether this is meant to discourage people and to let people get tired and go away. At the end of the day, this does not augur well. And whilst it would appear is mainly concentrated in urban areas, we are really worried and wondering what's happening. ZEC has stated that it is because of court challenges that delayed the printing. But we are not very sure about the truthfulness of this statement because our analysis does not show that there were court challenges in most of the areas that they mentioned, because we are aware of the few court challenges affecting the presidential and affected some of the double candidates. And the double candidates matter was actually dealt with more than a week ago. But as of this morning, ZEC was still running some of the ballot papers.
Well, so if those court challenges you don't think were responsible for the delay, what do you suspect caused these long delays, particularly in Harare?
It's difficult certainly to say what it is at the moment, whether it's just disorganization, mismanagement, or possibly, as some political analysts now start thinking, that it is a way in which the attempt is to disenfranchise urban areas as they are deemed to be opposition strongholds.
I see. Tafazo, I want us to talk about observer challenges, or how the entire process has been for observers. What has it been like for you?
Sorry, come again. I didn't hear you clearly.
Yes, I'm asking to share your experience as an observer monitoring the elections. How has it been for you? What challenges have you experienced as an observer?
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. As an observer, I think the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, especially at my polling station, or the presiding officer has been doing a commendable job in informing us on every move that they will be making, and they will be also informing the agents of all the political parties that are present. So we have been observing peacefully, and we have been observing with information at our fingertips, because the presiding officer is always telling us of the challenges that they are facing, and what they are going to do about it, especially with the issue of ballot papers not being distributed on time. They informed us that they will be halting the process for 30 minutes, because at my polling station we initially started voting uh, just after 7 in the morning, but then the voting was stopped at 10 minutes past 8 in the morning, because the ballot paper that we were using, it ran out. So we were waiting for the command center to bring in new ballots. So the presiding officer was always telling us that we are going to this stage and we're going to this stage. But as of now, the situation has been peaceful, and it's so allowing of us as observers to see the process. And I really hope that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission will do according to its mandate in terms of delivering the will of the people after the election is over, in terms of counting and actually presenting the correct figure to the masses of Zimbabwe. That's all that I can say in terms of observing.
Like Wilbert has said, there's only a few hours for polls to officially close, but in places where they were delayed, ZEC has said that they will vote the full 12 hours. But do you fear that this enormous delay could disenfranchise people, Tafazo?
Yes, definitely. Because the people are not going to stay on the polling station for the whole day. Some of them will be going to work, even though today is a public holiday. But you know that Zimbabwe is over 80% of its people unemployed, or they are working for themselves. So they don't have public holidays. So they will be going to their workplaces. So to say that people have to wait in the line from 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning, then to be told that you're not voting until all the papers are here, it actually differentiates the people from actually voting. And this is a violation of their right to actually participate in the process. And if it is to happen according to the confines of the law, the polling station is supposed to run for 12 continuous hours. It means that all these polling stations, some of them that are yet to open by now, they will run until early morning tomorrow, which is actually a cause of concern, because voting at night, I don't think is going to be a proper thing. So this will actually differentiate, especially the urban voters, because from the statement that was released by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, we can actually see that there is a systematic trend where the opposition strongholds in Harare and Bulawayo are the ones that are facing these challenges. But in other areas, in Mashonaland West, there are 99% open polling stations. In Mashonaland Central, there are 100% open polling stations. So you can actually see the trend and how it can actually impact on electoral democracy.
I see. Wilbert, what consequences do you see could come along with not only the delay, but also the logistical challenges that you have observed and monitored since the process started? What are we looking at here?
Number one, we are looking at the possible extension of this polling into tomorrow. We are looking at the possibility of a delay in the releasing of the results. Whilst the results should be released within 5 days, we think it's possible to release the results earlier than the 5 days, but we also are concerned I think some of the political analysts have highlighted the fact that the more we delay, the more we provide for sufficient space for election rigging. So we already look at a fertile ground for a disputed war.
I see. And I was just going to ask you about, disputation or disputes, based on just the delays and the logistical challenges. We know that prior to the elections, the opposition particularly had raised a lot of concerns about the credibility and the fairness of ZEC. It would seem that ZEC has given them one more reason to dispute, the results even before they come.
It's more than one reason that ZEC has actually given the opposition. There are many reasons, and today basically has demonstrated to everyone that ZEC is not the best manager of elections, and that the challenges that are there are not going to make things easier for anyone who is looking at these elections. I shudder to think what those who normally are quick to say that elections were free and fair are going to say after going through and after seeing what happened today. I'm aware of one election observation group from the African continent which went to one of the polling stations, was put, and had to retreat in a hurry because people are concerned about these particular issues. Because people getting into days before an election are the first to say that the elections are free and fair, yet some such things are happening. As at 15 minutes ago, it's 10 past 3 in Harare. Now we understand that at one polling station, that's when they've just received their ballot papers. So you wonder, people have been there, some would have gone. So certainly there are so many reasons as to why ZEC ought to be castigated for the manner in which they have run this election. I believe in our history of election holding, this is coming to be the worst of such elections.
I see. So what can ZEC do to mitigate the impact on the electoral process and particularly when it ends?
I wonder if any type of mitigation can be said to be mitigation at this particular stage. People set aside this day to be able to vote, and for ZEC to be issuing statements to say they have now finished printing the ballots, serializing them, and that they will be delivered in a moment is something which is wrong, is something which is worrying. For some of us who have been going around Harare, I think over the last 3 days, we saw them setting up the tents, preparing the places, and we wonder why, when they were able to set up all those things, they then did not deal with the issue of the ballot papers themselves, to such an extent that the situation is now chaotic. Look, at the end of the day, the credibility is gone, and I don't know how the courts will possibly deal with this particular issue. But we're also at the moment considering the next course of action to ensure that people who haven't voted will continue to have an opportunity to vote without being called upon to go back to work tomorrow.
I see. Tafazwa, let's talk about candidates and party supporter conduct as you have observed. From places where you visited, what can you tell us about the conduct of party supporters, the conduct of candidates who have visited polling centers? What's going on there?
Okay. It is important to also know that I'm based in Harare. Harare is the urban area. So in urban areas, there has been little to no challenges in terms of the conduct of those from political parties. But it is important to note that in the rural areas, we have seen various videos online with members of a certain political party sitting some 300 meters or 301 meters away from the polling station with notebooks and writing names of voters after they have casted their vote, which is in actual fact voter intimidation, because they are asking every voter to come and write their names soon after leaving the polling station. And this conduct is being done on an election day, where we are saying that this election is free and fair, and the Zimbabwe Republic Police is not acting on this score. they are simply saying that we have to hear from our superiors, but they are not taking action. So this conduct can actually affect electoral participation from those in the rural areas or those that are likely going to vote today, because they will not come to vote citing these challenges that if I go to vote, I will be recorded and maybe something bad will happen to me. So this conduct has been happening, especially in the rural areas, and we have seen a lot of videos online with people in as far as Manikale and Mashingo in Mashonaland West Province reporting such incidences of people manning polling stations
Well,
with a party regalia and writing the people's names whom after they have voted, of the
well,
people who would have voted after leaving the polling station.
indeed, Tafaza and Wilbert, I wanted to take a breather here. When we come back, we'll take off from where Tafaza stopped. You're watching Village Square Africa. I'll be right back. You're watching Village Square Africa. Today, a gathering is taking place in Zimbabwe where 6.5 million people are expected to cast ballot today already. The polls in Harare especially have been characterized by long delays, and as we are learning from observers, there are some polling stations in the capital city that have still not begun. Some are only now beginning. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission has said it will give them the full 12 hours to vote, but observers believe people may not stay in line for that long. Whether or not we'll hit the 87% turnout for 2018, we don't know. We'll find out at the end of the polls there. But let's continue our conversation with Wilbert and Tafazwa, who are both joining us from Harare, different points in the capital city. My understanding is we only have Wilbert at the moment, and so we'll continue our conversation with Wilbert. Wilbert, I asked you the same question just before we went on the break. What is candidates? What are your observations when it comes to candidate conduct, party supporter conduct at the polls?
Well, at the moment, I think the candidate conduct seems to be okay. We have not received much in terms of complaints against the candidates. We are worried about supporters, especially supporters linked to the ruling party, to the ruling ZANU-PF, and a particular grouping calling itself the Forever Associates of Zimbabwe, FAZ. This has become more like a terror group said to be registered as a non-governmental organization, but has basically been running an operation in which it has been intimidating voters, especially in rural areas. Today, we have received reports across the country where party supporters would set up about 500 meters from the polling station, a desk with an inscription with ZANU-PF insignia and saying that is an exit poll that they are taking. So they've been asking people to register with them as they come out of the polling station. And we also understand from other sources that people have been asked to come with serial numbers of the ballots that would have been given to them. We think this is a way of simply trying to intimidate people to say we will then get to know where you would have placed your vote. In a number of areas, videos have gone viral with people asking or demanding that they dismantle their tables as the practice is wrong. Police have been called in at some of the sites where they have removed these people. Ordinarily, our law sticks to 300 meters within the polling station, saying nothing happens. But at the end of the day, even with 500 meters, the intimidation and display of a political party signal is something that has concerned people. Well, in one particular video.
Well, but you know, they could argue that they do have the right to perform exit polls. What exactly is wrong with what you know, the ZANU-PF is doing 500 meters from polling centers?
The issue really is not about exit polls per se. You actually find that in terms of our law, we do not have exit polls, something that we are now also trying to inherit from the Americans, who basically have those particular exit polls. But what worries for us is a situation in which, in one particular area where the video has also gone viral, I think it's from Bikita, where people were being asked to pass through with their identity documents before they even went to vote, where they are being asked, among other things, who they will vote for. So the issue really is, this is something which basically is a demonstration of intimidating the voters to say, we will know where you will vote, we will know that your vote is not a secret. And this is actually being done with the size of ZANU-PF, and therefore linking such intimidation to ZANU-PF.
Wilbert, it sounds like a bit of a gray area to me, because when you consider two things that could have been illegal, if they were within 300 meters of polling centers, that would have been illegal according to ZEC regulations. But here they are 500 meters away from polling centers. But obviously, based on the analysis that you have made, that could cause some apprehension among voters who are going to these polling stations where they are located. What I do want to ask you about this is whether or not the police who are manning security today could have any justification for dispersing those groups that are stationed outside the polling stations.
Indeed, at the end of the day, one would wonder why a political party would put up a desk, especially with signs. Today, people were advised that there are no political signals, there is no political regalia, no party uniforms that a person would put on today. So for ZANU-PF then to have a desk within a kilometer radius of a polling station where they are then asking these questions is something which is worrying. We received a report, for example, of someone who was almost arrested by the police for distributing water to people who were queuing at one of the polling stations. And the fact was that our lawyers had to intervene and say people were thirsty and the water was not marked with any political signals. But the police argued that if it's anything that's likely to cause favor on election day, then it's something which is not allowed. So if they are that strict with things such as water, you wonder why they should not be stricter with someone who actually is showing and bringing in political party insignia.
Well, but I'm going to come back to issue around the police. Tafazwa has now joined our conversation again. Tafazwa, I know you warned us about the network earlier, but we're glad to have you back here. Now, let's wrap it up on polling station observations today. What would you like to tell the people of Zimbabwe who are yet to vote, especially the voters in Harare, based on the observations you have made today? Well, it seems there's a bit of a delay. The lag is longer than we expected between our connection here and Tafazwa's in Harare. So I'll stick with Wilbert for now. Wilbert, if you have the question, you can take it for me. I want us to wrap up on polling station observations today and move on to some other issues to do with security and, try and put the candidates side by side. What do you have to say to voters, especially those in Harare who may have to vote deep into the night? What would be your words to them?
That an election happens once every 5 years. And an election is an opportunity for them to choose the leader that they want for 5 years. That it might be a painful exercise today based on the likely delay that they are going to be experiencing, but that it is my hope that they can go and vote and smile tomorrow if the candidate that they vote for wins in the election. So I want to encourage them to be strong. I want to encourage them not to give up, and I want to encourage them to give it all that they can in the circumstances. There are challenges indeed, but they are not insurmountable. They will still be able to vote, and it is a requirement that they be allowed to vote, and that us as human rights players, we stand ready even to more litigation should it continue to persist, or should their right to vote being trampled upon.
Very well. Let's talk about, policing on the back of two things that have happened today. The delays that will go deep into the night and accusations against the police. They are picking and choosing. These are accusations that, were already in the fray prior to voting day. Here we are on voting day, and, questions are being raised about why policing is, the police is picking and choosing who it applies the law to. I do want us to talk about when voting goes into the night. What kind of challenges do you think that security personnel could face while voting goes deep into the night?
Okay, so for starters, you will find that people are agitated. I think at one of the polling stations, we saw a video of people who seemed to be reacting and possibly to start up a demonstration over the delays. We think there is a likelihood that there could be those that might attempt to start demonstrations overnight as a result of this particular issue. We are worried about the likelihood of any potential demonstration. We are clear about what happened in 2018. 2018, people voted on the 30th of July, and on the 1st of August, there were perceived delays in the release of the election results, which culminated in some people demonstrating and with the government unleashing security forces, including soldiers, who shot and killed 7 people. So the issue is we are extremely worried about that potential delay. We are worried about what's likely to happen. We are worried that also these things are likely to happen in the evening. And when they then happen in the evening, you never know what else will become a target. And I hope this can just end up being an election, but not something that we witnessed. And so January 2019, post-elections, we also had incidents in which almost 16 people eventually died as a result of some of the disturbances. So yes, there is that fear that further delays might result in agitation, which can lead into demonstrations, and which can then be responded to violently, including by the security officers.
Very well. Let's give Tafazwa another shot. Maybe his network is better. Tafazwa, if you can hear me, let's talk about law enforcement conduct. How do you expect security operatives, police personnel to conduct themselves in order to de-escalate anything even before it rears its head? Tafazwa, can you hear us? I do not believe Tafazwa can hear us, so I'll take that question to Wilbert. Wilbert, what can law enforcement do as far as their own conduct is concerned in order to mitigate any situation that could be volatile?
They have to be professional. That's the first thing that will go up on them. Over the campaigning period, they have proved to be partisan. And we have seen this with the banning of rallies of the opposition. We have seen this at times with the way they've behaved. I think last week there were videos of them throwing tear gas at supporters of the opposition Citizen Coalition for Change in an area called Mashingo. About a month or so ago, there was a police water cannon which sprayed water on supporters of the opposition who were walking towards the venue of the rally. And we've seen the banning of rallies that I've already mentioned. We think what they ought to do and what they should do now is to be more professional in this approach, treat people well. And yes, we're not saying that people should not be arrested when there is breach, but they should do so professionally, taking into account the fact that we have a constitution which also guarantees certain particular rights. So they should allow people to express themselves in terms of the constitution, but be professional in the manner in which they handle them.
I want us to spend the last 5 minutes talking about the two front runners, the incumbent Emerson Mnangagwa and Nelson Chamisa of the CCC. There are those who have said this is a rematch of 2018 when Nelson lost in a very closely contested race. Nelson lost to Emerson Mnangagwa. We know what happened after that. But let's talk about now. How do you pitch these candidates against each other? What are you looking at?
That's a very difficult question for me. And ordinarily, I do not want to comment as a political analyst because I'm a lawyer. So, as a lawyer, I simply want to look at the figures as and when they come out. And I think I advise you that the elections are expected to be, the results in terms of the law should be out within the next 5 days. And I think we calculated the 5 days to Monday. So I don't want to start talking about their strengths, their weaknesses, among other things. And I am being extremely careful as a lawyer.
Well, but you got me there because I was going to rephrase the question to talk about the pros and cons of these candidates. But you already told us you don't want to talk about their strengths and weaknesses. How about we talk about voter patterns? Because based on the population figures for 2023, we have about over 10 million people in the rural areas of Zimbabwe, and over 6 million people in the urban centers of Zimbabwe. Now, how could that voter dynamic affect these two front runners?
Number one, you are throwing these statistics as a fact. And as some people who are on the ground here in Zim, we have actually argued that those statistics might not be a very proper reflection of the situation which is in Zimbabwe at the moment. Because we still talk of rural to urban migration with people coming really to the urban areas over a long time. And we wonder where at times where these people who are said to be in the rural areas would be. Remember, we also have rural homes, we have relatives within the rural areas, but those figures are shocking right from the beginning. But secondly, you also want to, when you make a comparison with 2018 and 2023, there is but possibly just one important issue which I would highlight, which is very important and which is factual. 2018, we were coming into an election with basically no candidates. This was the first election that we have had since 1980 without Mugabe. And then post-2000, we had also had Morgan Tsvangirai contesting with Mugabe in all the elections, and Morgan Tsvangirai had then passed away in 2017. So 2018, it was the first election that we had two new candidates who had not been tested before and where people had to make a choice based on those particular two. And therefore, and with Mnangagwa having then come in just before those elections, a lot also was quite expected of him. And we believe to some extent that it could possibly have been a 50-50 situation. But at the moment, truthfully speaking, Mnangagwa has been president for the last 5 years. He has had his own performance. There are people who stick with him. There are people who are unhappy with the current situation as it is. And all those things will be clearer as and when the results are going to be announced. But also, this will be also the second time that the two of them with Nelson fight it out. And we look forward to seeing how the battle turns out as and when the results are announced eventually. I hope I have managed to answer you, but to run away from anointing any of them as a leader.
Well, I you're an observer and you made an observation right on the money. Yeah, you answered the question, but you also stayed away from the question. But here's my final one to you, Wilbert. What are the constituencies to watch tonight?
Sorry?
I'm asking, what are the constituencies or provinces to watch in these elections?
The 210, all of them.
All of them?
Oh, I think this is going to be a closely fought election. Anything can happen in any constituency. And obviously, whilst Harare and Bulawayo will be interesting, the issue is all constituencies matter. Bulawayo and Harare are important because of the delays, but with the results will be affected and will be felt across from all the 210 constituencies.
Well, we'll leave you to do your job now, observe the elections, and then we'll talk again some other time here on News Central TV. Thank you so much, Wilbert, for such a great conversation. Wilbert Madinde joined us from... Absolutely. He joined us from Harare. He's also Programs Coordinator for Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum. Earlier, we had Tafazo Mavunga, who is also an observer in the election He is assistant programs manager with Project Vote 263. They have been sharing the observations about the conduct of the polls today. It's still ongoing in Zimbabwe. We'll give you updates, throughout the day here on News Central TV. Stick with us for those updates. But I'm done right now. I am Kemeni Amano. Bye-bye.